Well, welcome back to the 1972 Olympics. And we just observed that one of the Germans that was going to rescue the Israeli hostages actually is wearing a Masonic apron. And in addition to that, because it was such a tense situation, he decided to have a smoke while he was going to rescue these hostages. You might as well have a cigarette if you're going to storm the apartment where the hostages are held. Let's continue, see what more fun we can get into.
Minutes to 6 Munich time in the evening.
وهذا أقصى حد كانت تعليمات 24 ساعة.
Okay, now this dude is the only survivor of the whole mess, and he was one of the terrorists. All the Israelis end up dead. But don't worry, we've got a survivor, a terrorist who's more than willing to talk. So can't you just pause for a minute and say, if we can get this guy to go on film, wouldn't they like to get him and throw him in the clink or execute him or something if he's responsible for the death of these 12 Israeli athletes in 1972? Oh no, but our secret cameras and our secret rendezvous with the with the terrorists, he's going to tell us the whole story.
قدرتنا النفسية ما بتسمع أكثر من هيك، وإذا رفضت الحكومة الإسرائيلية مطلبنا بإخلاء سبيل المعتقلين الفلسطينيين داخل إسرائيل، ناخذ الطيارة مع الرهائن ونتوجه لأي دولة عربية ممكن.
At 6 p.m., the Palestinian.
Now notice how they zero in on him pointing to his watch, and that's a lot like in a lot of the Hoaxolgy things. People will be on their cell phones. You know, they point to something that has to do with the mind, and in this particular case it's a watch, and it's like, oh, it's 6 o'clock. That's 1 hour after the deadline. They were going to kill all the hostages. But they're not dead yet, all right? A new demand is coming.
Palestinians issued a new demand. They wanted a long-distance jet to fly them and their hostages to...
Hey, dude, I want a jet. And I want one that has rock music in it, because this is the age of rock music. Oh, we also would like some cigarettes and some beer and maybe a few other amenities.
Specified Arab country.
But the German government and the organizing committee decided that we were not allowed at all to let foreigners bring out guests.
Now that was probably some kind of a Masonic stand. They have the different postures and stands and things like that they do. I don't know all the signals. I am not and never was a Mason. So I don't know all their shenanigans. I do know they have lots of shenanigans and lots of ways of communicating non-verbally. They're all about non-verbal communication.
Our country who came as guests to the Olympic Games. And that led to the final conclusion that we try to give the impression to the terrorists that we let them fly out, but try everything to then kill them or bring them into prison before they could leave the country.
Unsere Tendenz war, das möglichst lange hinauszuziehen, die Täter zu ermüden und den Zeitpunkt zu suchen, wo wir die Handlungsfreiheit gewinnen können, die Geiseln zu befreien. Das war unsere Perspektive. Die Perspektive der Organisatoren der Spiele war natürlich, dass die Spiele möglichst bald weitergehen können. Das heißt also, dass die Situation in irgendeiner Form bereinigt werden konnte.
So it's a game within a game, all right?
To move the team from the Olympic compounds in order to let the Olympic Games to carry on. This was their main objective.
Once again, crowd hoaxing. Maybe to film that you had like 10 people. You multiplied it over. Alright? It's a fairly common technique that's done in all these hoaxes. Crowd hoaxing. And I'll bet if we examined that right now very carefully, we'd find some anomalies. We might even find some faces. I see one already. Down in the corner here. Sticking out the tongue. Sticking out the tongue. There's probably more anomalies in there, but I'm going to keep the video going. That's one thing you can do, by the way, if you want to do some of the stuff like what I do. Pause on the crowd scenes, pause on objects, and then take a close look at them and then magnify. And you may be shocked what you'll see. A lot of times you'll see demon faces.
Team and its rescue was secondary to that.
The staff group decided to bring them to the public airport of Munich in order to try something. I said, listen, that's crazy. You have another airport which is not a public airport. So I proposed to make Fürstenfeldbruck the target.
The letter C.
The police plan revolved around a decoy Boeing 727, which was to be left on the runway with its engine idling. On board would be a voluntary squad of policemen disguised as flight crew. The Palestinians and Israelis would be flown in by helicopter. When Issa and his deputy went to inspect the plane, the fake crew would overcome them. Meanwhile,
Okay, if you caught that, Issa, there's a derivative there of Jesus. False Jesus, okay? The false Christ, the Antichrist spirit.
snipers positioned on the tower and around the airfield would open fire on the remaining terrorists, and assault vehicles would rush in to rescue the hostages. There were only 5 snipers because the police still believed there would be a total of 4 to 5 terrorists.
Okay, 29, that's your 11, your 9/11. They're about to do a major death hoax.
This is Peter Jennings in the Olympic Village. The Olympic Village is built on various levels, and underneath Building 31, and underneath, in fact, all of the buildings here, there is a network of roads. Those alleyways now have been used to bring in a fairly massive security force, including armored cars, and just a short while ago, Howard Cosell noticed that there was considerable activity.
This is Howard Cosell reporting live in Germany. Yep, I've been reporting sports all my life, but this is one of the best sporting game events I've ever reported.
Over the recent 25 to 30 minutes, there was a flurry of activity. Cars were speeding off, and we now have a corridor or avenue of departure available.
Okay, so obviously there's something going on with the number 31. If you add 3 and 1 is 4, and 4 is a door. Alright? There could be other things going on. Remember, they use the numbers as magic. There is potency in numbers in the Hoaxolgy system or in the occult system, gematria system, whatever system you want to assign to it. I don't understand it, but I want you to know it is true, and it does work. It is powerful, the use of numbers.
To the Arabs, should a deal have been made and should they be coming out as now seems likely. So there is a quiet now and an expectancy.
ما شعرت بالخوف بمعنى الخوف، ولكن شعرت برهبة كإنسان كبشر.
Well, sure, we understand your feelings, you know. We've all been terrorists before. We empathize with you. This was your mission, you know.
إني يعني خايف أفشل لأنه شغلة كبيرة.
I was afraid of failing. I wasn't afraid of getting my head blown off. Come on, it's so ridiculous.
The Palestinians and Israelis were to be flown by helicopter to Fürstenfeldbruck Airport. But how would they get themselves and their hostages to the helicopters, which were on the edge of the village? They decided to walk via the underground car park. The police saw another ambush opportunity and placed marksmen here. But Isa insisted on checking the route first.
Again, there's something with that Isa. I believe that's an Arabic name for Jesus.
So we walked there. There was one of the terrorists behind me with a machine gun in my back.
Oh yeah! Ha! And I was just as calm as I am right now because it's all BS. Now listen, I want to tell you something. I have talked to an individual who was literally in a situation where someone who could have killed them literally did put a gun in their back. Now, you can say what I'm telling you is BS. No, it really wasn't. And that individual repeats it over and over again, and they have fear on their face. Trauma is very devastating to the human psyche. But look how calm and relaxed he is. There was a machine gun on my back.
And at that time, some of the gunmen of the German police were lying in the side streets. And when we approached, they were crawling away. So the
Hey, did you see that? Did you see that guy hopping? I hope you saw that. How he did like a hip hop in his run. Like, I better get moving. The camera's rolling.
We found out that there was danger, and they decided to use a bus and not to walk.
The magic bus. You know, the one that the Beatles had. The magic bus. Well, let's film the bus while we're at it. The one guy had binoculars. This is quite a show.
The Israelis down a passage into an underground car park and to a bus. Robert Thompson, a 24-year-old Canadian water polo player, saw them leave.
So then they brought 7 of them out. They put 7 of the Israelis on the bus, and then he went.
So he counted them, right? He sat there and counted them. Or he stood there. Or he was filming them. Now 7 is another important number because it's the Zion or the mind weapon. It's like instantly whenever you say 7, it goes into people's head. Now again, I don't understand this, but I'm telling you, it is true. These numbers have power when they're used in witchcraft.
Inside, and then they brought out more. And during this, there was one fellow standing in front of the bus with a machine gun, watching all of it.
The terrorists had all the guns. What were the Israelis doing?
They were tied.
Oh, look at the smile! Ha! What were the Israelis doing? Oh, they were tired. They were sleepwalking. Look Look at the smile on his face. What were they doing? They were tired. Boy, that really answers the question, doesn't it?
They had their hands tied in front of them, and plus their hands were tied like that, and then around the back they had ropes and they were tied together like that walking out.
Get on that bus. Now sit there and don't talk. Nobody's allowed to talk on this bus.
The first man that got out was the man with the white pith helmet. He got out, went over to the first helicopter, and made a complete check with a flashlight.
He made a check with a flashlight. What does he have, a flashlight in one hand and a gun in the other?
He checked in and out, both back, front, and middle of the helicopter. And when he saw that everything looked like it was all right, he signaled, and 4 hostages started to march out with him.
They marched out! What kind of a march was it? Oh my goodness, I can't take any more of this. And if you're still with me, I want to thank you, because it just goes on and on and on.
Hands tied in front of him, and behind them was an Arab guerrilla with some kind of weapon in his hand.
Oh, some kind of a weapon. See, those kind of phrases are used as fillers when they're making up stuff. Some kind of a weapon. Well, why don't you just say a weapon? Or why don't you just say a knife? Why don't you just say a gun? How many options do you have for a weapon? Mostly it would either be a gun or a knife, right?
It was quite a frightening experience, and you know, it wasn't any James Bond, it was the real thing.
Oh, it was the real thing! It wasn't any James Bond! It was the real thing, baby! Alright, I'm going to stop it right here. There's going to be more coming, because I am having a blast with this. And this was the real thing, folks. R-E-E-L. Not R-E-A-L. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for another segment. I know you won't want to miss it. End of video.